Hi, Vision Business Community. This is Dan here, and we have Lucy Megginson. Lucy is from Mojo Talent, and it'll be great to chat to Lucy today because Lucy really specialises in development. She specialises in business consulting and coaching, recruitment, and works with a really broad range of people. So has some really great insights about her business, but also ways that we can all improve and pivot and benefit from having some downtime during the COVID-19 crisis. Welcome, Lucy. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, your area of expertise and speciality. I think our viewers would love to learn, especially from people in the coaching arena. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I run two businesses. One's Mojo Talent and one's Life Design Coach. Essentially, I'm a professional coach, but I'm a business consultant as well. So I've run many businesses in the past. I found that what I love is helping other people grow as opposed to sort of growing my own massive business. I love the one-to-one interaction with people and helping them get the best out of themselves and their businesses. So that's where I've kind of focused my energy, helping other people grow their businesses and their teams. And, most people come to me because they want to grow and strategize. And there's a few things that they feel might be holding them back and they need a bit of external input, or, something's going on in their team. They can't quite work out, where the bottlenecks are and things like that. So they bring me in to kind of give them that external point of view and give them the time and the kind of expertise that is really hard to do when you're just running day to day. To take your time out to actually reflect on your business as opposed to being in it.
So how has your business been performing itself since all of this has started a few weeks ago? What challenges have you faced and how have things been going with your own client list? I can see you're working from home today. What sort of challenges have you faced and what are you thinking of doing to try to overcome them?
Yeah, it's been an interesting journey because things have changed week to week. I think everybody's found that, especially I think prior to, some of the stimulus packages coming in, different industries got affected at different times. There were some people where they were like, not affecting me one week, when other people were like, oh my God, my business is dead. And then it's been interesting the way in which different businesses have caught up essentially. And for me, because my business is about growth and it's about strategy in growth and it's about, building on what is already there and making it better and building on the people that are already there and making them better. People haven't been in the growth mindset. They've been in survival. If you go back to basic human psychology, when you're in survival mode, it's a lot different than being in growth mode. So I guess I took a bit of a step back initially to give my clients the time and space, if they needed it, to work out their new norm, if they didn't want my input. Because they were in panic mode, but I've just let them know I'm there, even if it's not to take a fee. It's just to let them know that I'm there to support them. So business has been affected essentially, but I'm finding people are starting to want to really reestablish their new norm now. Every week is different. So we're all starting from the new norm essentially.
And, I'll make a really quick comment on that because it's been just fascinating talking to people. People are just generally seem to be a lot more pleasant and willing to chat, even if there is no underlying purpose to the conversation. I think people have more time in their hands. People are wanting to interact on the telephone again in new ways. We have to speak to a number of people that we're speaking to for the first time every day, and we're just noticing we're spending a lot more time actually on the phone. They're engaging a lot more. But back to your point, you work with clients when they're sort of in that growth mindset, and now they're in that survival mindset. What does that mean for the way that you reapply some of your strategies to help business owners?
Absolutely. It was interesting because when I was taking a step back and thinking about, how am I going to pivot? How can I best assist my clients in this period of time? It took me a little while, but what it took, again, going back to your point about communication, just communicating without any pretense of why I was phoning people, why they were phoning me. Just having a how are you conversation made me realize, it came to me one day, one of the tools, the very simple tools that I try to get businesses to implement to help them, you know, analyze their business very succinctly and easily throughout all their departments, but was always put in the too hard basket, because it does take a little bit of time to sort of develop that. That's exactly what businesses need and are coming to me for now. So it's like, there's always been this thing I've always had a frustration that I know what this simple tool can do for businesses, but it's always been a bit too hard for people to take the time to implement. Now people have time. Now people need to, you know, really analyze what's going on in their business. Their employees are working from home as well, how to effectively manage them. This tool is perfect for it. So I'm not trying to sell anything to anybody, but I'm actually just sort of like reiterating to them, hey, you could use this tool, and, you know, letting them see the benefits for themselves, and they're totally lapping it up. So that's been, it took me a while to think about it, but yeah. So I think, and do you know what, not just in this time, but it will just help them moving forward and grow when all of this is over.
Yeah, I'm going to take a stab in the dark and assume that you've got a tool or an exercise that we can go through in a minute. It sounds really, really fantastic. You know, everyone is searching for ways to pivot. Everyone is trying to find new opportunities. I don't think people are working out what those opportunities are yet. But one of the things that we know for sure when we give a lot of business owners advice is to start back at the fundamentals. And until you're really familiar with the fundamentals, you actually, let alone walking through a door, you actually can't even identify the right doors to walk through. And
exactly that.
And I think, you know, for us, that means start with the fundamentals from a financial and operational perspective, and make sure that you really, really know the numbers of your business. But, you know, you're coming at it from a very different angle. So let's get up your screen share. I think you've got an exercise that we can share with people here, which, well, I'll let you talk through that, Lucy. That's your product, and it sounds really great.
What I've actually done is I've actually also used in this example, this is kind of you know, it's not somebody's actual data that I'm using, but it's quite reflective of the data that's coming out of the different businesses that are using this. But I've used an example. Sorry.
What are we looking at? What sort of business is this, first of all?
Yeah, so I've used an example of quite an extreme business case whereby, you know, all feels like it might be lost, and that's the travel industry. Travel has stopped. Nobody's allowed out. Travel has stopped. So it's not a business that can kind of pivot in a small way, you know, or find a different avenue. Travel has stopped. So I thought that I would use this as a really good example to highlight what travel businesses can be doing right now in order to sort of like see ahead in the future. So that's why I just wanted to sort of like emphasize, that's why I've used quite an extreme one, because everything from the extreme to actually businesses that are still functioning can use this tool.
So it looks like on the left, you've got some fairly straightforward KPIs.
Yeah, so basically the premise of the tool is to divide up all your departments, even if you divide those departments into roles and teams. It depends how big the business is. I use this a lot in kind of small to medium businesses. So they could be like 10 to 15 staff. So you know, but you can use it for as big as you want, but it's about looking at the individual elements of every part of your business and actually turning each role, each thing that your staff do every single day into a KPI, something that can be measured. And if there's stuff that they do that can't be measured, then I'd be asking, what's the purpose of that, of what they're doing? And there might be a purpose, but you know, it's a really good way to analyze what everybody's doing. And also in terms of staff management, if they know that they have something very basic for their role to fill in every week, that isn't about like whether they're doing a good job or not, it's about analyzing the business. When you're actually managing your staff when they're remote now, it's about asking how they are. It's not about what are you doing. You can see the results themselves clearly on this tool, but it's about actually checking in on a person-to-person basis and saying, hey, how are you doing? And I think that really changes the remit of how you can manage your staff, especially in this remote environment. So yeah, initially the legwork and the part that I kind of play, essentially, is taking a lot of the legwork out of it for the business owners or team leaders in terms of really turning the roles into KPIs and the elements of roles into KPIs, making it as simple as possible. And then getting people to report on it. You'll see that I used a period here of, just when things were kind of in the media, sort of things are going to stop or might stop, to things have ground to a halt. And you can see, I'm in new business at the moment. I think you can see that. Now, in the travel industry, you might think at the moment, well, new business, what's the point? But it's not only analysing, it's looking at kind of like what you were doing that you can't do anymore. It's about where were you actually not doing very well in the first place? So you'll see the KPIs here on the left, agents contacted, networking groups, PR. Now, agents contacted, that obviously falls off because maybe something's going on with the agents, or you're just not putting your energy into that, or you think, well, what's the point? We're not running. I think in each of these elements, you can analyze, well, why am I contacting the agent? I think the premise, and it goes back down to what you were saying about having different conversations now. We shouldn't come from a place of where we're trying to sell anything to anybody. But what you can do is you can build trust and loyalty moving forward by keeping in contact with your agents. Or is that going to give you good gains for the future when things pick up? Networking, that was pretty low to start with. Is there something we can be doing now to really focus on how we networking online? Like what groups can we be joining? And again, it's not about, we know we're not going to sell anything in the here and now, but where can we focus our attention where we weren't before that's going to put us in good stead for the future?
So
does that make sense?
Absolutely. So, by putting your KPIs and identifying your KPIs, first of all, you can sort of look at the areas that you were performing really, really nicely. And some of those areas may be a lot less relevant, or you may be restricted in how they are going to perform. So look at some of the other KPIs where perhaps you weren't putting a lot of your focus into, and see if there are opportunities to sort of pivot within the business. That's basically that's what you're getting at there. And I can see that you've got a stack of tabs down the bottom as well. That it looks like there are so many ways you can slice and dice this really simple exercise.
Exactly that. So if you look at, I've moved into sales and marketing now, but the marketing you were doing before obviously might not be having the same effect now, but is that because you're still trying to push the same message? Have you focused on what messages you're actually pushing out on Facebook? Have you left some automatic schedule for your social media running that isn't relevant right now? Could you be reaching out to your followers and your clients in a different way? What's a message that you can create where you still interact with them, where you still remain relevant? Your brand still needs to remain in, sight of people, but how can you interact with them in a different way? So it really gets you to analyze, well, I'm sending out 7 Facebook posts a week, but obviously nobody's interacting with them. Well, how can we interact with them? Is now the time, because people have got more time to communicate, like going back to your point earlier, people have the time to communicate now. They actually want interaction. I think this is the first time in a long time whereby we're not all trying to just fight for sales. We can actually create a conversation with people. So is now the time to start sending out more direct mail, but not to sell anything, just to create some interaction. Send out a quiz, send out, ask them to submit something. Like, just people want to actually, they do want to communicate right now. And the premise shouldn't be about just selling. So it's about what your staff, there's no point in your staff also sitting around bored. Or, and you obviously don't want to get rid of them either. Sometimes people are going to have to make cuts, and people have had to make cuts. But, with the staff that you have, how can you really be using this effectively to communicate? So, analysing those sides of things. Also, things like in finance, I haven't filled in any data here, but, if you were so busy kind of doing your invoicing here, there and everywhere when you were getting bookings through the door, but you have loads of invoices outstanding over 60 days, well, that's exactly where your finance team should be focused now, getting that money back through the door, creating conversations with the clients, so it's a really good tool for just analysing every element of your business and pivoting within, so that, you know, on the other side of it, you come out a much better and stronger company, and you're actually all working in a really good, aligned way.
Mm. So what are the best ways for a business? You know, I think a lot of people operating businesses have a lot of employees that are, you know, unable to perform their role due to this crisis. And, you know, what are some tips that you could give to a business owner who's looking at trying to, you know, they may have either stood down their employees or reduced their hours substantially. What sort of KPIs can you place around an employee, for example?
Well, this is where I would actually start with going through your departments, you know, going through them as they were and now looking at them as they are. So you might have already made some, you know, reducing in hours or actually having to stand down staff and things like that. But with what you've got, what can you do within? So I wouldn't look at the actual employee. I would look at the department. I'd look at the role within the department. I would actually spend some time strategizing around, okay, maybe we could try this, maybe we could try that. Everything's going to be a bit of trial and error in terms of your messaging to your clients, or who you're communicating with and how you're communicating with. But and then you have a clear idea, once you've kind of gone through those things, about where your staff can sit in that. So even if you
I just want to point that out, actually, Lucy, because that's a really, really key point, I think, to get across, is that, you know, when you're looking at, because, you know, when we talk KPIs, there's always a bit of a balance as well between, you know, a positive KPI and micromanaging, especially when it comes to employees or, you know, contractors. And the thing that you said, which I think really resonated for me, was don't focus on your employee, focus on their role.
That's correct. And their outcomes. Because if they know what their outcomes are meant to be, or what they are, it turns a mindset. When it's about leaving them to sort of like kind of work it out for themselves because they don't have clear objectives, then that brings in a whole host of problems, and then it can be made personal about the employee. If you make it very specific and quite basic about what they have to report on every week, and any issues that come up in that reporting or in them trying to complete that, you know, element of reporting, it actually shifts the mindset. It shifts them to actually focus on what their objectives are, what the outcomes should be, and where they should be focusing their energy. It actually just totally changes the whole remit of how you lead and manage your staff. Hence why I've always tried to put this in businesses beforehand, but why it's actually really key now, because this is where you can see where your time's being spent, where your money's being spent, you know, where you can still keep your staff employed, and where you can actually have them being really productive. So nobody's sort of in the unknown. And it also keeps, especially when everybody's working remotely, it keeps everybody on the same page. It knows where you're going, you know, like it enables you to know what the focus is. Even if your focus is changing from one week to the next, your employee actually becomes really key in feeding back to you about what the barriers were or the successes were in reaching these objectives, and do they need changing? Do we need to change our, you know, the way in which we do this?
There are such great opportunities to find new ways to communicate with staff and customers and suppliers that are close to your business. And I think, you know, the narrative of the way that we communicate now to the people that interact with our business, especially the staff, really changes. And you know, a lot of business owners that I've spoke to, I think they've done that really well. But, you know, there are some who, as you mentioned before about, you know, the message that you're trying to deliver through marketing. There are people who are still marketing the same message they were marketing 2 months ago. You know, people have got a question, hey, is this relevant? You know, I know that you know, when this sort of really all hit us a few weeks ago, you know, we had to just completely wind down our nurture email campaign that we were, you know, running very successfully, because the message just was not relevant. So I think it's a great, you know, for people to think about the narrative and the way that they can communicate with the people that interact with their business is a really great place to start, because it just helps people engage, communicate, and you know, create positivity in their sort of immediate community. Lucy, that seems like a really simple tool. I imagine the biggest challenge there is probably identifying the KPIs for each individual business.
That's correct.
If people get in touch with you, are you happy to share that spreadsheet and have an initial discussion with them about how they can move that forward? Okay.
I'd be more than happy to do that. Yeah, so anybody can get in touch with me. I'm sure you'll give them my email address, and yeah, I can send it out and have an initial discussion just to help put them on the right track with it. Yeah, I'm more than happy to do that.
Okay, because yeah, the hardest part is most definitely, I mean, I know we've been through this sort of exercise before, myself personally, and yeah, the hardest part is trying to identify the KPIs and just finding that right balance between a productive KPI and, you know, a KPI that's just a little bit less relevant or important. And, you know, sometimes you need to go back and, you know, write your KPIs down, download them from your mind, review them the next day, see if you still think they're relevant. And
That's right.
Okay, great.
Action first, yeah, for sure.
Lucy, I can't thank you enough for joining us. Everyone, this is Lucy Megginson from Mojo Talent. Her details will be posted below. We'll also be emailing out contact details for Lucy for anyone who's registered with us. And if you want to have a version of her spreadsheet and a quick chat with Lucy around how you can use some simple KPIs to pivot within your business as opposed to completely changing your business externally, absolutely get in touch with Lucy. Lucy's a superstar, and thanks for joining us, Lucy.
Thanks for having me, Dan.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching Vision Business Community, and we'll look forward to posting more videos. Bye.